We are gathered here today to celebrate the 10-year anniversary month of the Nintendo Wii U. The Wii U launched originally in November of 2012, and this console, well, I can't really say that it changed everything. In fact, it didn't change that much. The Wii U didn't sell super well, but Nintendo was going ham creatively when this console released. I swear, Nintendo made some of their best games ever on the Wii U, and they don't get played nearly as much as they should have because some of them are still stuck on the Wii U, and not many people still play the Wii U at all. I mean, granted, if you look at the Nintendo Switch's best sellers list, a lot of these games are actually Wii U titles. So the Wii U's legacy has kind of extended past the Wii U itself, and today I want to talk about the final games, the final ports that may or may not happen. We're going to be looking at Wii U games that are still unfortunately stranded on the Wii U and talking about how great these games are and mainly whether or not they could ever come to Switch. Whether it's a business reason they haven't already been brought over or if it's a gameplay reason, talking about how realistic they are and all of that. Let's get started with the game that, this game is an incredible game. One of my favorite titles ever, probably my favorite launch title ever, I don't know. Wii Sports and Mario 64 are up there too, but Nintendo Land, man, this game is so fun. If you're playing games with friends, like the little Luigi's Mansion minigame or the Mario Chase minigame are so good, and the original solo offerings this game has, like the whole Metroid mission thing, there's a lot of stuff here, and this game is just very, very fun. It's an entire celebration of the company Nintendo that we love, and I don't know, man, I love this game. Unfortunately, on the how likely is it to come to Switch scale, it's not that likely at all. This game was core to the gamepad, which is going to be a pretty common theme that you're going to hear a couple times in this video. All of the little mini games in this game essentially required the gamepad, and while certain ones of them definitely could be remapped, for example, the Metroid one totally could be remapped. I mean, the gamepad was only really used for the ship player. You could do that entire campaign on Switch, easy. Certain games, not so much. Mario Chase and the Luigi Mansion come to mind specifically because you need a secondary screen. It's not impossible though. I mean, you could get a little companion app on the App Store because Nintendo has a pretty big mobile division now, and that could be how the gamepad person actually sees what they're supposed to see because obviously the gamepad does no longer, exist on the Switch. You don't get your own personal screen anymore. So yeah, it's not impossible, but it's not likely. Same thing with Game & Wario. This is essentially the spiritual successor to Nintendo Land, and it's a game that I see not many people talk about, but it does have its fair share of fun little mini games, again, most of which that require the gamepad. There was like a bow and arrow game where the gamepad was sideways and you'd have to, use the touchscreen to shoot the arrows. There was one where you used the gamepad like a camera, and while these could be remapped to buttons and motion controls that the Joy-Con have, I just don't really see this happening. In fact, I'd say this is even less likely than Nintendo Land, despite the fact that it might not be as technically challenging. It's just such an obscure game. I don't really see Nintendo working with intelligent systems to bring it back. Going from two games that probably won't come back to a game that I think definitely will, Xenoblade Chronicles X is a game obviously developed by Monolith Soft, and every other Xenoblade game is on Switch now. We got Xenoblade 2, we got Xenoblade 2 Torna, we got Xenoblade Chronicles 1 through the Definitive Edition, and now Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I feel like this has to be up next, right? I mean, it's a pretty decent game from what I've heard. I'm not a Xenoblade fan, so I can't speak to that, but there's nothing, super serious that this game needs the gamepad for. I'm pretty sure the gamepad was just used as a minimap or inventory management. This game also looked incredible. This was honestly one of the best looking Wii U games we ever got on that console. So not only would I say this game is likely to come to Switch, in fact, I'd say it's so likely that I'd be surprised if it didn't eventually happen. Monolith Soft seems to be really dedicated on putting all of the Xenoblade games on Switch, and that includes Xenoblade Chronicles X. Moving on to Star Fox Zero. Now, a lot of people think that this game could not be placed on Switch, and I just completely disagree. The gamepad was not nearly as important to this game as Nintendo would like to lead you to believe. All it gave you is a different camera angle. You could look into the cockpit view on the gamepad, but you could just easily make that on the screen itself. You don't need to have a cockpit angle and that other camera angle that was migrating around your ship as kind of a more cinematic view. You don't need both of those. If Nintendo wanted to put a Star Fox game on Switch, but didn't want to do any development at all and just kind of port something over, Star Fox Zero definitely would be a reasonable choice for them. And interestingly enough, we could also get Star Fox Guard. A lot of people do not remember this at all, but it was a tower defense game that came out with Star Fox Zero. Basically, you would use the gamepad, which was kind of an overhead view, and then the TV would have all the different security cameras, and you'd switch to different cameras, fire their weapons. Again, it was easier with the gamepad, but not impossible without it. Considering this game is already like a whole, camera management, resource management type thing where you gotta switch to different cameras and make sure, no enemies are getting too close, you could definitely do that entirely on one screen. Next up, let's talk about about Yoshi's Woolly World, and this is a game, it feels weird saying to port this to Switch because we already got Yoshi's Crafted World, but I'm sorry, Yoshi's Crafted World is a bad game, straight up, in comparison to Woolly World. I don't know if like this is a hot take or whatever. In my opinion, Crafted World is a just genuinely not good title. I think that game is so bad in comparison to Woolly World. Yoshi's Woolly World is one of the best 2D platformers I've ever played. I'll put it up there with Donkey Kong Country, Tropical Freeze, and Rayman Legends, both Wii U games that have already been ported over. Woolly World is just super duper fun. There's literally secrets around every single corner, and it just captures that cute feeling that Crafted World, in my opinion, never really got. If you want any reason as to, you know, point to why this game is better than Yoshi's Crafted World, the soundtrack, man. Crafted World's soundtrack is bad. Straight up bad. I'm sorry. The soundtrack is bad. And Woolly World's soundtrack is amazing. It's phenomenal. It actually has different melodies, and it's all overall the vibes are just super high throughout that soundtrack. And I'm pretty sure there was even like a story about how the Woolly World composer was like taking shots at the Crafted World composer. I'm not here for the beef, but I do think that is pretty funny. Regardless, man, Yoshi's Woolly World is the best Yoshi game in my opinion. Right up there with the original Super Mario World 2. Definitely clears Crafted World. That game blows. And I would love to see Yoshi's Woolly World Deluxe or something ported over to Switch. I mean, we already got the game ported to 3DS, so what's to say another port? Like, it wouldn't hurt anyone. Come on. I think that it's not likely, but it's not unlikely at the same time. It just kind of is. It's like a 50-50 chance on whether we get it. Now, quickly, let's talk about a couple of games that have literally zero chance. Mario and Sonic, any of those games. There was a Rio 2016 one. There was a Sochi 2014 one. Those games are not coming to Switch. I just had to include them in this video. They may be better than the Mario and Sonic game we got on Switch, but they're obviously not coming. They literally have like their years in the title. This would be like EA porting Madden like 2K15 over to, you know, the new Xbox for no reason. It doesn't make sense. Next up, Mario Party 10. Will this ever come over to Switch? No. But we could maybe see some boards in it or some mini games in it in Mario Party Superstars DLC. That's about, you know, the furthest we'd ever get. Honestly, I think this game is a little bit overhated. I don't think it's as bad as Super Mario Party, and people seem to love that game, so I mean, what am I supposed to say? I have no idea. Kirby and the Rainbow Curse. This is a game that I think not only should be ported over to Switch, but would benefit from a Switch port. Now, how would this be? I know it doesn't really make sense because anyone who's played this game knows that you have to use the stylus to basically draw little lines on the Nintendo Wii U gamepad, and that's how you get Kirby to move. That's like the whole gimmick of the game. Well, the gamepad had a lower resolution than the TV, and this game is beautiful. If you look at trailers for this game, the claymation style is one of the most unique styles, not just in a Nintendo game, but in any video game ever. I think this game is visually beautiful and deserves another chance. But with the way the game was originally meant to be played, you would look at the gamepad the entire time, and you wouldn't get to see the HD glory that this game has. All the little fine details, the thumbprints in the clay, all the little molding stuff that you would, you know, see in the background, that was not really discernible while you were playing on the gamepad. And I want to see this game brought over to Switch because A, you can play it in docked mode and maybe use gyro controls to draw the little lines, but B, if you play this game in handheld mode, the HD, you know, actual Switch screen would look so much better than what the gamepad offers visually, and I would love to be able to actually play this game again, but this time be able to see it, you know, in all its visual fidelity and all its visual glory. I would love to be able to see that. Now, this next game is honestly the one that I think would be best on Switch and has the most, you know, potential to come to Switch. But before we get into that, hit the subscribe button. 80% of our viewers aren't actually subscribed, so just check. It means the world. We got a lot more content coming up soon, and I hope you guys enjoy. Alright, now let's take a look at NES Remix Pack. Now, there were actually 3 of these games, being the NES Remix, NES Remix 2, and Ultimate NES Remix. I believe I remember the NES Remix Pack being a combination of the original and the Ultimate NES Remix, but they should just add the second one in for, you know, if they ever do the Switch version. Basically, these games would take your original NES games, like I'm talking, you know, your original Mario Bros, Legend of Zelda, all that stuff, but they would be changed, given challenges in some way, and they were so much more fun because of it. This is what I wanted Nintendo to do with NES Online, but they never ended up doing it. Little challenges or one-off levels, like playing a Donkey Kong stage as Link instead of Mario and not being able to jump because of it, or having to defeat 15 enemies with the invincible Mario in the original Super Mario Bros. NES. All of these NES games are so good at being replayable. They're honestly more replayable than a lot of games that come out nowadays. And NES Remix Pack was able to actually kind of like build that into the game itself. It was able to build that like replayability that you'd kind of feel as a kid when you were just playing these games and giving yourself your own challenges. This kind of built that into an actual game, and it was super fun, and it's something I really want to see on Switch. Except give it multiplayer this time. They never really had multiplayer or online leaderboards, which was kind of weird. Alright, next let's move on to Mario Tennis Ultra. Yeah, who am I kidding? This game is not coming to Switch. And good riddance too. Keep this one locked on the Wii U. However, Paper Mario Color Splash is actually a game I wouldn't mind seeing ported over. Now granted, if this game was ported over, I think Twitter would erupt, because if Color Splash somehow got a port before the original, which I guess is now on N64, Nintendo Switch Online, but mainly Super Paper Mario and The Thousand Year Door from the GameCube, if, you know, either of those games weren't ported over, but then this one was, that would probably cause a riot. But honestly, I think this game is good. I think Color Splash was actually a decent game. It had a good story, great soundtrack, and pretty fun mechanics. I think if you just tweak the battle system a little bit in a deluxe version, it could be, you know, it could be some good fun on Switch. Next, a game that unfortunately kind of defined a lot of the outside perception of the Wii U. Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival. This game came out in 2015, and we never got an Animal Crossing game on the Wii U, so this was kind of the best we had, and it was a crappy Mario Party clone that required Amiibo cards in order to play. It was really bad, and I don't want to see this ported over. While technically there would be no, you know, technical hurdles in terms of them porting this game over, I don't really see them doing it now, because Animal Crossing is one of Nintendo's core franchises now after, you know, the insane success of New Horizons. Reporting over a game that actively harms, you know, the public perception of that brand, I don't really think Nintendo will do it, and honestly for good reason. This one can stay on the Wii U as well. So with that out of the way, those are all the Wii U games that I kind of think either could be ported over to Switch or should never really come over. It's interesting because, you know, some of these could go both ways. Like, I totally understand that Yoshi's Woolly World will probably never be ported over, but it's a game that I would actually be super excited to see on Switch. Then you have games like Xenoblade Chronicles X, which, like, how is this not already on Switch? Same with NES Remix. That would be, like, it's a no-brainer. And last but not least, of course, you got games like Nintendo Land that would be amazing on Switch. So much fun, but Nintendo would have to put in a decent amount of work, and I don't know if they're really going to do that. I don't know about you guys, but I actually had a lot of fun with this console, and while obviously it did not, you know, do well financially for Nintendo or anything, there were a lot of fun games on here, and I have a lot of fond memories of it. I'm glad this console is hitting its 10-year anniversary, and it seems like people are looking back on it somewhat fondly. So comment happy birthday Wii U down in the comments below, and I'll heart your comment and whatnot. If you somehow missed it, we made an entire Nintendo Direct for Halloween. It's actually pretty funny, so it's on the screen right now if you want to check it out.